What's up and welcome to another Mograph Mocast. I'm Dave.
And I'm Matt, and joining us today is the super talented Lawrence Pompey.
Hey, what's up, everyone?
And Mograph is a supplement to our site, mograph.com, which is a motion graphics tutorial site with tutorials, plugins, podcasts, and other Mograph stuff. And on the show, we talk about everything ranging from motion graphics to Cinema 4D, After Effects, plugins, render engines, doing business, doing taxes, being a contractor, or working for the man. You can email us info@mograph.com. Let us know what you think about the show. Questions, comments, concerns, queries, grievances, artist suggestions, show topic ideas. We are on mograph.com. We're on youtube.com/mograph. We're on some of the other platforms as well, including TikTok, which Lawrence is very familiar with, you know. And so a couple things we wanted to talk about from for last week, or do the week wrap-up here. The first item on the list is that next week is going to be the Halloween episode, our yearly Halloween episode.
Yay.
With Aryev and EJ doing the green screen thing and our little, I don't know what you call it, our lair, you know, and the little cauldron and the little
cauldron
magic
with the Joy
mirror.
Joys?
The Joy Joys. We're passing out
Joy Joys.
candy. We would love for you to call in. It's going to be on Skype. The name is going to be Mograph Calls if you want to find that ahead of time so you can call in. Just make sure your video is on, you're in landscape mode and not portrait, and that you're ready to talk to us about... I don't know if we're going to do spooky client stories again.
We should.
But
That was the most depressing episode.
It was a little depressing. I think probably what we'll do is we'll just, have people call in and say hi.
Yep.
No big deal. Maybe if you do have your costume, it is Halloween, so maybe you'll have it on already, or maybe you have
I'll be
something
dressed
simple
up.
you can put on. Yeah. What are you going to be?
I am James from Team Rocket, and Amy's going to be Jessie from Team Rocket, and then my kids are Pikachu and Ash Ketchum. Very exciting.
Ash Ketchum.
Ash Ketchum.
Lawrence, you dressing up? You doing any?
Probably not, but I wanted to do the whole Miles Morales thing. I've always wanted to do the whole Miles Morales thing, but never got around to it. I was gonna do it in 2017 Comic-Con actually, but I didn't wind up getting around to that one either.
You're in New York, right? Aren't you?
Jersey. I'm
Okay,
originally
Jersey.
from New York. Yeah.
Cool. Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah, the New York Comic-Con was actually just a couple weeks ago, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Falls on my birthday. That's how I always remember.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice. Happy belated birthday.
Why? Thank you.
Yeah, I'm going to be dressed up as Hopper from Stranger Things next week, so that'll be interesting. I've been growing out the beard. It is so uncomfortable. Like, it's, even if I do grow it out, I usually kind of, like, trim it. But, like, I hate when it grows past my lip. It's so itchy, and I can't stand it, and I'm ready to shave it off, but I'm doing it for the part,
You got one more week.
One more week.
Well, one more week, and then you got to shave it, and then you can't, it's no shave November.
Right.
So you need to get it done, like, that night.
Right.
Otherwise, yeah.
Or I could just, keep going.
Just let it go. Let it
I
go.
don't know. I don't know if I can handle that.
Yeah.
I'll just do opposite of November beard.
You just shave every day in November.
Yeah. Like, fully
full beard
clean.
every other day.
Yeah. Just come back every other day. So, call in, show us your costumes. We would really love to hear from you. And then also, I did some Mograph TV updates this week as well. So you're going to be seeing a lot of new content on there. There's also some other new content that's coming soon. Jags has some new stuff. Winbush has some new stuff. We couldn't find his original masters. So we were getting these 720 versions off of YouTube, and it's not great. So he found his masters. We're gonna put that in there. We got other show updates, and it's kind of complicated. But with Mograph TV, I was basically throwing in scheduling for it every day, kind of like pushing the button on Lost. It's
Right.
like you have to be there and make sure that it keeps going. But through the magic of XML, I was able to do some crazy complicated voodoo stuff, and then like end up with 3 months worth of scheduling where I don't have to touch it.
It's great.
Which is really nice. And So there's going to be some great Maxon content on there. You'll see our shows. We've got some new archives of our shows that'll be in there shortly. So turn it on, yank the knob off. 24/7 Mograph, everything you need.
Need to make sure that all the previous year's episodes of the Halloween episode happen at the end of next week, so
they
that
will be.
People can just watch all of them.
Yeah, you can put on Mograph TV and watch probably at least 6 hours of Halloween episodes.
Yeah.
We have a lot of content. So that's it on that. Also, I just wanted to recommend Rev's new Rubble Pack that he just put up on Gumroad. Make sure you check that out. I don't know if does he go Revelo or
Revelo, I think.
Revelo. Revelostuff.gumroad.com. Make sure you check out his pack. And I believe is it a free pack? Or does it cost something?
Check right
Donations only?
It is. Yeah, it's free.
Yeah.
Free assets released under Creative Commons.
Cool.
Yeah.
And last thing we're going to get it. Oh yeah, there he is in the chat. Yeah, check it out. If you like it, maybe he'll make more,
Yeah.
So, and then the only other thing before we get into it, I just, wanted to ask how NAB East was. Looks like y'all were having fun.
Yeah, I had a lot of fun. The presentations were amazing. Ingrid's presentation was awesome. So good with the medical animations and stuff. Making super complex stuff
I saw
easy,
that.
Basic. Oh, she was so good. And then Joe Herman with the hair tutorial and stuff. I didn't think hair could be that easy, and it was surprisingly easy. And then of course EJ's was awesome with all the new cloth stuff. And so then we had a lot of fun in New York City. We went and met up with a bunch of people from former campers.
Yeah.
Which was fun. And then EJ just wanted to do karaoke so bad.
Yeah.
So that's the thing that I love about New York City is that literally anything you want to do is within 10 blocks, So we walked over from the bowling alley that we were at over to karaoke and did karaoke for a couple hours. And EJ had to sing Getting Jiggy With It Without You, Dave.
Man, I was so sad about that. That was some FOMO. That and Two Bros Pizza.
Two Bros Pizza,
Man.
The grossest pizza in all of New York City.
It's the best pizza. What are you talking about?
Nah.
Just because it gives you heartburn doesn't mean it's bad.
I mean, all pizza is good. Honestly, let's be truthful.
I don't know about Chicago.
But there was this other place. It was Italian something pizza that was on the corner of 36th and 9th. It was excellent. Right next to
Chef's kiss.
Right next to a sushi place, and that sushi place was awesome. It's dude, they don't hold back. They give you big pieces. So,
well,
anyway, had a lot of fun. It was great
I
seeing
was
everyone too.
Yeah, I kind of FOMO'd on that, but I needed to spend a little time at home, at least for October.
Yeah, dude, you've been traveling so much lately.
Yeah, next year may be a lot of travel as well. So
might be a lot of travel. Yeah,
we might have some fun announcements.
Yeah.
So we'll see where that goes. Loris, let's get into you. Imaginerd 3D on TikTok. That's how I know you. Anyway.
Yeah.
And we have never met before today. This is the first time, so we're gonna hang out and meet each other. We have I don't know. We may have. I've at least liked a bunch of your stuff on TikTok.
Oh, definitely. Yeah.
Yeah. I didn't know if you had really seen our channel or not. But
I'm pretty sure I've liked
okay.
a couple things. No, and
posted
the
in a
TikTok
while.
algorithm, I still don't know how to use. I really don't. I see someone with a box going viral with 30 million views, and
Yeah.
the most impressive animation you've ever seen in your life get 10.
Yeah. Yep.
Absolutely. And I don't know how the algorithm works. I have noticed that there are now more 3D, Cinema 4D, Blender, Unreal things on TikTok as more people are starting to create content, because we're so niche to begin with. I feel like when I first got on TikTok, there wasn't much in our realm, you know. and it seems to be finding me. Like it says, hey, do you want to add this 3D person? You know?
Yeah,
So it's building steam. You know?
Yeah, little by little. I think it has a lot of potential as a community. Especially, I mean, I don't think many people are going to sit and watch a 10-minute TikTok, but I do know you're allowed to upload that long. So I think eventually it's going to grow into something more, I guess, educational, something you can use, for little short form things.
I will watch anytime, one of those old like restoration videos where they restore like an old candy maker or like an old Tonka truck or something. I will watch the entire thing. And I know I'm in for the long haul just because I like seeing the before and after. It's beautiful.
100%. I just saw them redo a cheese grater. It was this one where you kind of like turn. I watched all 3 minutes of it. It was incredible.
Yep. It was awesome.
I think I just figured out what was going on with our audio. Just popped in my head. Mark was on last week.
Yes.
And so it defaulted to an input that wasn't there, which was probably the all streams feed because I hadn't put you back. Okay, sorry. That's where my head is, Like,
are they talking about giving TikTok the ban hammer today? It won't happen. I don't think it'll happen.
I keep hearing about that. People.
Yeah, I mean, we've been hearing that the
streets.
past year or 2 years. Yeah, it's not going to happen.
Yeah, Trump wanted to get rid of it or something, or ban them, and then I keep hearing that. I don't see how, and I don't see why. Honestly, I mean, I guess China is the reason people don't like it. I don't know.
Yeah.
I mean, you see how many TikTok creators try really hard and they'll build up an account for 2 years and all of a sudden it gets banned for no reason. And that makes me a little wary. You know?
I'd be scared. Imagine getting like 1.2 million followers and suddenly no longer have an account. Like
Right.
Oh my gosh.
Right.
Yeah.
What a waste.
And
it's like, I mean, okay, so if the Chinese government, has control or whatever, or sees TikTok or whatever, how is that any different than like Facebook and Instagram and whatever? It's
Have you had any like content problems where you had to dispute things on your channel?
Me? No, not so far, thankfully. Then again, I've only recently been sort of kind of picking up on engagement little by little. I go for that kind of 10% range in terms of, like to view ratio, but so far I haven't really gotten it. But I have heard people, even with low views, are getting, banned or restricted for whatever kind of content or something like that. Yeah, even though that content isn't even in the video.
And you'll send something out to the mods and it's like, okay, we'll get back with you. And then if they get back with you, they're like, no, we still stand by what we said. And I'm like, I gave you all this info, tell you exactly what happened, and I swear it's just bots doing the moderation.
Oh, guaranteed. Yeah. They have the most advanced bots in the market, honestly. I believe it.
So you can't even ask a question. You can't even, But anyway, so your TikToks are mostly about Blender, but they are also about modeling, and there, of course, are the Cinema 4D people and the Blender people and the Unreal people and then the everything people. And we're not anti-Blender by any means. We're just in Cinema 4D, and just honestly, what we always say is we don't have a reason to go to Blender for anything. If I had a specific reason to go to Blender, I opened it before, I would go to it. But it's hard for somebody my age to switch.
I used it back in the day for like instead of using RealFlow, because Blender had built-in, water stuff. So I've used that previously. I actually have some of that in my demo reel. Oh yeah, I can say I've used Blender. It's in my demo reel.
Right on the resume.
Right.
And so, but the thing is, like, in general, I still like to watch Blender content because it's not just about the software, it's about the ideas, right? Like, you might talk about, like, you had one the other day, you were talking about 3 different types of modeling in Blender.
Oh yeah, sculpting. Yeah.
And I guess, what are the 3? There's
You can use the Blender at least, the Dyna Topo, which is dynamic topology. So create geometry where there wasn't any before, but you get really messy topo topology. But and then you have
using like material nodes or something like that. Sorry.
No, no, it's fine. So basically, let's say you just have a cube, you go into the sculpting tab, and you would just select Dyna Topo. So this is a flat cube. It has 6 sides, nothing special about it, no extra geometry. If you turn on Dyna Topo, you can just draw the geometry on. So it'll sculpt as if it's, based on a level of quality you put in. It'll just sculpt that detail in without you having to add subdivisions or anything like that.
That is similar to Sculptress Pro in ZBrush, it sounds like.
Yeah, I'm still new at ZBrush, but from what I remember, yes. Yes.
Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah, and there's so that's I use that type the least, honestly, because I'm not a fan of the messy topology it creates. And, and for some, I don't really sculpt a lot of organic stuff. Most of the sculpting I do is usually for props, like any kind of semi-organic props or stylized things. I'll use sculpting just to put the details in. I bake the normals later. So I usually use the second or the third step, which is type, which is remesh, where you just, you remesh, you add geometry, and it just adds geometry to the entire mesh, but it can mess your corners up a little, but it'll add a ton of geo that you can sculpt over. But my favorite is multi-resolution, and I'm not sure if ZBrush has something like this, and I know Cinema 4D, I think, has some sculpting capabilities as well, so I'm not sure if there's something like this, but essentially, it's a subdivision modifier that allows you to use the subdivisions in layers or levels. So let's say you turn up the subdivisions to level 5. I know Dave looks like he has the video up here. So essentially, you put the subdivision level up to whatever you want, and without having to apply the modifier or apply the geometry onto the mesh, you can sculpt as if that geometry existed, but you can always go back to a lower level. And it'll get blurrier or lower quality, but it helps you create nice and easy high poly meshes and low poly meshes at the same time.
That's so interesting.
Yeah, it's definitely my most commonly used for getting that clean topo if you're just doing like a log, you're sculpting or something like that. Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah, no, it's.
I wish there was more of. I want them to bring some of these sculpting things in from ZBrush into Cinema 4D. I mean, now that they, are the same company basically.
Oh yeah.
Love to see that. But that dynamic one or whatever. That's cool. That's super cool.
Yeah.
Do they have like, what is it, voxel based modeling as well, similar to like in Cinema, what is it, it's the mesher and the builder and stuff like that?
I haven't I'll be honest, I haven't used anything, but from the closest I can imagine, not necessarily modeling from scratch, but it's more so like a retopology formed modifier is the remesh modifier, which allows you to remesh it in voxels. But in terms of modeling from the ground up or sculpting from the ground up in that, I don't think so. But now that you mention, I remember someone posting to Twitter something like, I wish Blender had this kind of feature. This is the one reason I stick to ZBrush or something like that they mentioned. I forgot what it is. But did ZBrush... not ZBrush. Didn't Cinema 4D just recently get, well, because of the, I guess, merger, the Z remesher built in?
We got the Z remesher. Yeah, boy.
Jealous.
Yeah, it's really great.
Oh, man, it's so good. It's so good.
It allows me to be incredibly sloppy with everything that I'm building, and then I put it all into like a voxel, thing in Cinema, and then after it makes garbage geometry out of it, I just remesh the whole thing and.
Yep.
Yeah, it's
that
great.
was the thing that I had been asking for forever, because it'll create really clean topology once you use the volume mesher, which is great.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. But you actually know how to model correctly.
Sometimes I feel like I've never modeled before. But
yeah.
I mean, some of the stuff that I see on your TikTok that you're showing off, like you've been showing off stuff like this tire, and this is your website.
Yeah. Thank you.
And your website, I guess, is the best place to like see your work and stuff, right? You know.
Yeah.
Just looking at this stuff, and I know you show a lot of examples of it as well in your TikToks, and I really love what you're showing.
Thank you. I'm trying to, I guess, get more used to, because I feel like, especially in terms of time, like free time available and stuff, I feel like what can I take that I'm already doing and make it content out of it, instead of like dedicating so much extra time, at least for now, into creating individual, so I'm like, all right, let me show a process I did to get this kind of topology on this model, or kind of little, and those seem to be my most popular videos. So I'm like, I guess people just, it seems they like the process, at least on TikTok, more than they like the final result, it seems.
Right.
At least I'm finding.
Yeah, a lot of people want to see that, almost like, the behind the scenes on it, and it's easy to do a quick 30-second TikTok on something that you've just been working on too.
Yeah.
So
Agreed.
I'm constantly saving things on TikTok. I'll probably never get to half of them, but
Likewise.
saving all the 3D things, or even saving stuff that's not 3D related, where I'm like, hey, that's a good idea, I should do that.
That's a good life hack.
In 3D, or here's a trend that I could do, or something, But
a lot of that.
Did y'all happen to see the thing that was created in Blender, where basically it follows a spline and it basically creates like a river from it? Insane. Let me see if I can find it, Dave, and you can bring it up, because I know Winbush posted it on Twitter, and he was talking about, he said basically Cinema needs to get on this.
So what is it? And then what else?
It's basically using like a generator or something like that in order to create, here we go. Here, I'll put it in the chat.
Now is some of this stuff, is this like in Blender, or is this a plugin? Because I know a lot of plugins you have to buy.
It's geometry nodes.
Yeah, so, directly in Blender. Yep.
Yeah.
Okay, it's in
it's so crazy cool.
This is also, I guess, to preface, this is also like genius Blender user, because I have no clue how they even came about doing something like this. I'm sure they'll release a tutorial at some point, or sell it on Gumroad, open source. But oh my goodness.
Wow.
I mean, that's insane, right?
A flow map or something. I don't know how they did that.
So you just
But
oh my gosh. Wow.
Right? Insane. I follow Winbush. I saw him post this, and then I saw him retweet. If you check, I think it was yesterday, he retweeted someone figured out to do like a rudimentary, like early first draft version in Cinema 4D.
That's that second one, Dave, that I sent.
Yeah. I'm like, wow, that was quick.
Right?
See, I'm looking at it. I'm like, okay, so these rocks are probably some forms of instances, but like the water, is that
right?
Is there?
And how are you creating like the white caps with it and stuff like that? That's crazy.
I'm thinking like height displacement, but I have like in terms of like height value, like if it's this amount, I guess you use foam. I have no clue, honestly.
Yeah,
I'm just
no idea.
Yeah.
Wow.
Red.
All right.
That's a
river of blood.
I need a blood river.
That's a level of proceduralism that I love that is going into Blender. It's nowhere even remotely near Houdini or anything like that, but it's nice to see that you can at least get an introduction of these concepts,
Right. And the fact that it's like running real time while you're making adjustments and stuff, that's crazy.
Yeah.
And there is a time to go to Blender, but anything that can make me not Blender, Houdini. Houdini, but anytime there's something that can keep me from having to try and figure out something in Houdini, which usually means I have to go to somebody else to do it. It's like, it's just like the cloth stuff, for example, the cloth stuff that Maxon has put in the latest couple versions is just, everything
so
EJ is showing off is so good. And he made a comment about how fast it is, and a lot of people are like, well, yeah, it's fast, but then at the same time you don't have this and that control. It's like, I get that, I understand that, but there is a point where it's like, okay, do I need to have a freaking master's in physics to figure this out, or can I just do something easy and not have to leave cinema? And it's there's a time and a place for all types of sims, and like if I'm doing cloth, the first thing I'm going to do is try and do it in Cinema. I'm not going to go, hey, I'm going to do this in Houdini first, and try and do it in my 3D software before my 3D software of choice first. So, man,
best tool for the job.
Who figured this out in Cinema?
I don't think it was done in Cinema. I think they were showing it off how to do. Oh well, yeah, C4D, very early verification prototype. Yeah.
Wow.
No interactive foam shader. You're not showing the stream.
Oh, I was. I had been.
Oh, you were. Okay, sorry.
Yeah. I had been up there. Oh, see, I'm not sending. Am I sending you this? Oh, yeah. Okay, cool. Yeah. So, so tell us more about your background. Tell us like how you got started in this in the first place.
Sure. It's a long story, but I'll try and condense. Well, I spent about 10 years, about a decade in pre-hospital emergency medicine, also known as EMS. Yeah. And I treated patients throughout that time. And for about 6 of those years, I was also an educator. So I worked in education, a lot of American Heart Association stuff, medical education. I taught at a couple of nursing schools, medical schools, nothing like advanced courses. That was not some physician PhD, whatever it was. But I worked in the field often. I started in basic kind of 911 and transport, like a lot of do. And then I went up to kind of critical care and pediatric intensive care units. So we would go through like interstate, so like within the tri-state area. So my shift would start in central Jersey, and I'd wind up in Philly at Children's Hospital, or in Manhattan at New York Press, and things like that, and then all between. So it was all over the place, but I had always had a love for the arts, media, things like that. I originally went to NJIT in New Jersey for engineering for a couple of years.
Oh, okay.
As you can imagine, the cost was absolutely ridiculous, and a number of other things. So after a couple of years, I wound up on my own, financially and everything fully. And I had I cling to the one thing I had at the time, and that was I was volunteering in EMS at like a local, smaller unit. And I had a lot of friends that were either going to medical school, they were older than me, of course, and things like that. And they kind of coached me through, hey, maybe you should, in the meantime, make some money, do some, whatever it is, and build this up. So I went the certification license route of education and got a ton of certifications, licenses, kind of built up from that, and, wound up becoming this whole career. And about, I want to say 6 years in, I had this idea to start a small business. And in teaching, I was already teaching at the hospitals and stuff like that, but I wanted to do something independently, basic stuff, like stuff that I could manage easily, like CPR and, like courses like that, first aid stuff for companies and like offices and warehouses and things. And to do that, I needed, at the time it was mid 2000s, 10s, and I needed a website. So I needed, business cards and all this other stuff. And, I was already, working 80, 90 hours a week because it's normal in medicine. And I was like, I don't have the time or the money to spare to pay people to do this. So I went to the internet and I learned what is graphic design, how to graphic design, how to make a business card, whatever it was.
Graphic design.
This is back when I thought, I would go on Vistaprint and I'm like, oh my gosh, these designs are incredible. These are the most amazing things I've ever seen. So I kind of, I started to learn like the very basics of design. I was by no means a graphic designer, but enough that I could, go to Wix and make a website that didn't look like it was made in 1995.
Right.
I could, just understand like how layout worked, colors to use, things like that, how to attract people to a page, yada, yada. And I started working with that. And I continued with that. And that was around, I want to say 2017 that I started this business. It was called Pulse Education. It was LLC and everything. And I had, started with that. And then in 2018, I got, I was looking through a tutorial. I forgot what I was doing. I was trying to learn how to do something graphic design, and Udacity popped up. That online school for like coding and things like that. And I was like, oh, this is kind of cool. And this is when I started looking through. I was like, what's UI and UX and what's this stuff? and I saw a course. It was Android Studio Basics, software development, and you could apply for a scholarship. And I was like, oh, this is kind of cool. Is this design? I didn't really know anything about it. Like, oh, you can design, but with like code. That's cool.
Yeah.
So I applied. I got the scholarship. Thankfully, it was for and now this is 2018, and I'd gone through the course. They taught us the basics of like design, layout, like pixel space between like elements, UI elements, stuff like that, XML, a little bit of Java, and that went on for about, the course ran for about 3 to 6 months. I finished it in about like 4.5 or so. And I was like, okay, this is amazing. And during this time, of course, I was still working in medicine, and I was like, how can I apply this to what I'm doing now? There was no realistic way. It had nothing to do with treating patients, but I wanted to test out some things. So I started building, learning how to build my own apps. I built this this app. Oh, I think I have like a video of it, or it's on one of my old phones I have in my drawer. I built a small app it was like a counter, sort of like a procedural counter to see how you can do a procedure, what's known as rapid sequence intubation. So, tube down the throat kind of thing. You see it in Hollywood. It was like, from start which medication you're choosing, and it started a timer, and they would go through, because these are timed procedures, and they would kind of like help to increase speed and kind of organize, and it would organize a list on screen of what medication you chose, what dosage, and stuff like that.
Interesting.
And I did that, and I at the time I was part of the clinical leadership board for the hospital I was working at, and I presented it to them, and they didn't take it. I didn't know what my what my goal with that was, but I realized after that, I wasn't like put down or anything. I realized after that, it's like, wow, I really love designing things, like making things that people can view and use, even if they don't use it in that case, but this is really cool. So that's when I learned about After Effects, actually, because once again, I was going through, just surfing through YouTube tutorials. I'm like, what's After Effects? What's motion graphics? So, got the Creative Cloud subscription and everything, and, immediately lost all my money. No,
yeah.
but no, so I went through, and I was like, wow, this program is amazing. And I made little, like, 2D ambulance driving on a little road, and I learned how to use, lines and turn them into dots and make it look like the road's moving and stuff like that. And, and I was like, wow, this is really cool. So I kind of kept playing around with that. And then after that, you search enough motion graphics tutorials, you'll wind up on something that's 3D. And that's when I was introduced to Video Copilot.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I saw his tutorial on the planet Earth, the trooper that I
Fly from Space.
Yeah. And I was like, wow, this is amazing. And then I did the tutorial. I was like, wow, this is great. I'm like, there's got to be an easier way to do this, like 3D wise, like this 3D stuff. Saw the Element 3D. I didn't, want to dump any money or anything into it at the time. And
by the way, just real quick, I did see Andrew Kramer in New York City, and he gave me a teaser of the updated Element. It's pretty. Yeah. Anyway, go ahead.
Ooh, are you supposed to be saying that? Jeez.
I don't know.
Oh man.
We won't tell.
It would, as of right now, it'd be like saying he showed me Nebula. That means nothing.
But yeah, so I kind of looked at that, and I did a couple like tutorials on how to like kind of fake 3D and After Effects, but I didn't really play around with that much yet. And this was. So this is, mind you, around like 2018 to 2019 now, and I was getting to the point where I was like, okay, I want to get off the road in terms of being out in the field. I want to go more towards education, pay attention more to the business I started, and also, on a side note, my health had started to diminish. I now live like with a bit of a physical disability, but due to stress of the job, genetic condition, things like that. So it was kind of pushed to a certain point. So I was like, you know what? This is the universe telling me I think it's time to make a leap and kind of see where I can take my career now. And especially a person without a formal degree and, very self-taught and everything. So I decided I was like, you know what? Let me go more so into education. So for a short period of time, I worked for a medical school working in simulation. So, simulation in terms of like, those mannequins that you see and stuff like that in medical shows they practice on. Well, these were, each mannequin was like $100,000 to $200,000 each. Like these are real, like the pupils dilate. You can, check a pulse. They talk back to you through a separate mic, and there's tons of stuff. You can get heart rhythms on. You could deliver babies. I'm telling you, these were a whole nother level.
Right.
It was cool. It was really cool. And that was when I was working in the city in Manhattan, and the commute and everything, physical issues as well. Yeah. And I was like, okay, maybe this wasn't the right move. Maybe I should, and this is when I was taking a break from motion graphics or anything I was learning, graphic design, all that stuff. And my partner at the time, still currently, she's a graphic designer. She works for a small studio. Well, now she works in tech, as a designer. And she had really encouraged me. She's like, you know what? If you ever need like coaching through stuff, you want to learn a bit more, it's a great field. You'd be great at it, because she's seen the stuff I played around with. And, that was a huge support system. And I had some money saved, and I was going through, I still had my business, and I was still teaching, which is something I could still do regularly, thankfully. So I was like, all right, you know what? Let me really take this leap. No plan B, all in, head first. And I found Blender. Once again, on my YouTube tutorial trips, I found Blender, and I did this cloth animation tutorial. I think it was by this guy, Olav 3D, I think he was called. It was the coolest thing I've ever seen. And then when like the cloth revealed over this bowl, it was extremely basic. I went into After Effects and I did like a mask wipe on it, so like the cloth would wipe on the letters. I'm like, I'm a 3D artist. No one will ever top me again. No, but and from there I just did tutorial after tutorial. Every single second I had, I was doing a tutorial. When I wasn't like doing like class prep or lesson plans or business related stuff, or occasionally working in the field, I was doing Blender. And it was constant, probably a little too much, but it was constant. And at the time, my partner, when she did work for a small studio, I had I had asked her, I was like, so what do you think of this stuff? Do I actually have like a career? Is there a way, maybe can you ask your boss, her boss at the time, there's two of them, it was a co-owned studio. And I was like, could you ask them to look at, what I'm doing and see if I have any kind of future in this, like 3D related. And they did some 3D stuff at the studio, not a lot, but a little bit. And she's like, sure. So she showed them stuff, and I got an email from one of them, is like, hey, you want to come in and just like sit for an hour and talk? And not like an interview, nothing like that. It was just, hey, you want to just sit and talk? It's like, I'd like to give you some feedback on your portfolio. And this was this was great. And this was before the pandemic. So this was end of 2019, like way end around Christmas time. And this is when I just started. This was like a month or two into Blender. So like early January 2020, around there. And they're like, sure. So I came in, and we sat and we talked, and he walked through. It was the worst work. No one will ever see that reel ever. I guarantee it. And he went through with it, and then, he said, this and that, blah, blah, blah. And he's like, keep in touch with me. So every single month from then on, I sent him, throughout 2020, I sent him everything I was doing. So a little update. I did this little project, sent it to him. It would usually take like a few weeks for him to get back to me, because he's a busy guy. But he'd get back with a little bit of feedback, and he saw how I kind of improved time and time again. And then about a year later, through the pandemic, which was definitely a tough time, but through the pandemic, my partner had already left, was leaving there because she got a different job. And they emailed her and our messenger on Slack. She's like, hey, are you still dating Lawrence? And she's like, yeah. And it's like, all right. It's like, would it be okay if we ask him to come in and talk about his work again? And they're like, oh yeah, I think he'd love that. So they contacted me, and I came in. I really wasn't even aware it was an interview. And I went in, and we talked about my work. They said, and towards the end, they were like, full disclosure, we have a client coming on who's doing a lot of educational stuff, and we want to get more into 3D and everything like that. And we see how you've been improving over time. You've been sending us stuff, keeping in touch. We tried doing like a little bit of freelance stuff like with them before that, because during that time I was still trying to freelance, like Upwork, the usual stuff, just trying to get little contract commissions. And they were like, hey, it's like, yeah, would this be something you'd like to do for a living? And I was like, absolutely. So, they gave me that, the privilege of having that opportunity, and they kind of jumped me in. So about a month later, I started working there, May in 2021. I started working at the studio full time as a 3D artist and kind of a generalist. And I primarily work on like education related content. So
I was gonna say, I feel like the education background definitely gave you a leg up on that.
Yeah, I think so. It helped me kind of ease in because it felt like I was able to not completely abandon what I spent 10 years doing. It didn't feel like a waste or anything. It felt like, okay, in a way, I'm kind of combining the things that I loved with the thing that I'm now finding love in. And then since then I've been working there and trying to create personal work, but finding time and energy, as I'm sure I don't have to tell either of you, is pretty damn difficult. But yeah, slowly improving, just trying to kind of make a little name for myself and get better. But yeah.
That's an awesome story. Yeah. I love that. Like, I mean, it's the, I don't know if you know David Ariev at all, but like he was in school for, neuroscience, and he loved doing videos, and he completely moved over to that. I absolutely love it. Because, most of the stories that we hear from people are, oh, yeah, I went to school. I love drawing. So I went to school and I learned to draw and I got into graphic design, but it's like, that's a completely different background. And to see, your love for it is just, that's inspiring.
Yeah, and the thing that
I
want to say it was Ryan Summers at the first Camp Mograph. I think he asked some question like, who originally set out to be a motion designer, and it's a little different now. Like I would say, like most people who are like late 30s and in their 40s probably were not aiming for that, originally, because there were not classes for it, things like there are now. There weren't the resources available, and it's really interesting to hear, people's stories of what weird side thing got them where they are now. Like in hindsight, it's obvious, but you would have never told me when I was in school for video and I'm sitting there learning about Citizen Kane that this is what I'm doing now. And then you throw in the NFT stuff on top of that, and it's like I never thought I'd be talking about blockchain, crypto, blah 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 when I sat down and said, I like this Cinema 4D thing, I
like shooting video.
Yeah.
Let's get into blockchain technology.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, I do certainly remember the OG days of YouTube, the 4x3 days, I guess you can call them. I did try and make, like, this was when I was kind of stretching my creative. As a kid, I had the family computer I kept breaking. But,
you keep downloading torrented files and they have,
BitTorrent,
LimeWire.
Oh, no, LimeWire just
you're just asking for it with LimeWire.
Yeah.
I'd make my little AMVs, the Dragon Ball Z with the Linkin Park music over them, and that was my first Windows Movie Maker. That was it.
Right.
That was the style. But yeah, and I never thought it would lead me to. I'm definitely not where I want to be, but I'm a hell of a lot further than I thought I'd get. So
was there any sort of regret, about completely switching gears and going to something else, or was it like, no, my love for this
relief
is or relief?
Well, I guess the best way to answer is kind of a little bit of all of them. There's definitely the regret, if I'm being honest, in terms of, I kind of wish I started this 10 years ago. I wish I whatever it is.
I get that.
Like life is different. Life happens. You do what you got to do. Things rarely ever go our ways, and it definitely didn't go mine when I was young. So regret in, I wish that I started earlier, and in some ways I definitely could have, even with the stuff I was dealing with, I definitely could have started to some degree. But it's mostly relief in the fact that I was able to find something, especially what was going on with my personal health and things like that. You feel lost. You're not really sure where to, whatever it was. And it's not that, design and animation in 3D was my home. It was just like, oh, wow, there's also this. And just being able to do that kind of gave me the confidence in that, Lord forbid I gotta do this again, this whole process again.
Right.
I've done it once before. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
If I found this by accident, who knows what else I'll find by accident? Especially with careers and everything changing nowadays and remote work. That's something I had to get used to because I work remotely now, and I love it. But
yeah,
gosh, it's the best.
The best.
Yes.
My goodness.
Yeah.
But
you did this cardiac monitor, right? Cardiac monitor.
Yes, the LifePak 15.
And I remember seeing this. Oh wait, that's a different project there. I remember seeing this on your TikTok because I think you were going through it. I think if I remember correctly, because this is a little while back, you posted some updates while you were building this, if I remember that correctly. But I just remember noticing, the attention to detail and everything on it. As far as modeling in Blender, I've from what I've seen, you've got a really good technique, and your whole process is very methodical. Like, did you learn this somewhere? Like, how did you learn how to do the stuff in Blender, the modeling, the UV unwrapping, all of that? Is it tutorials or?
A lot of it was a mix of tutorials and like Twitter. Like, I spend a lot of time on Twitter. That's the main social media I use. I've had the opportunity to connect with a lot of people, especially in the games industry, and so much modeling. Like, I think in my personal work, a lot of my stuff is modeling in general, and I try to model whenever I can. Of course, unless client work and you just download a model or buy one.
Right.
But I like to model as much as possible because I enjoy it the most, and I think I spent the most amount of time on it, and I learned a lot from the games industry, like ArtStation. Not even ArtStation learning. I would just kind of go through other people's portfolios and kind of look at how they did things. Just kind of go through tutorials and a lot of trial and error and pulling my hair out, but because hard surface modeling, I think drives everyone nuts. But I just kind of tried to learn, off of that, and I would go to Sketchfab often. Sketchfab is somewhere I spent a lot of time. And I would just, and thankfully they have the viewer feature where you can just go through look at people's wireframes, see it's like, oh, I have a curve like this on my model. Look how you can connect it and stuff like that. But yeah, that model you saw actually, what I posted on TikTok, here's the social media lie. No, I had made that in March of 2021. And I remember I'd gotten a Sketchfab staff pick for it. It was the first time I ever got any kind of recognition, or a model thing, and I had actually made that for, I was testing some stuff with medical visualization with some old EMS educators, friends of mine, and I was showing them, examples of how you can put, the cardiac rhythms on the screen and the different things to learn how to use the monitor and stuff like that. So it was cool. It was a lot of fun, and I love hard surface modeling.
Ever considered getting into, with the medical background, ever considered getting into medical, 3D illustrations and stuff like that?
I've definitely thought of it. I initially, that was the first thing I had thought of. And I remember I had freelanced at one point for a couple small projects, medical, more so scientific animation, where I would just help with models and a little bit of rigging and things like that. And I enjoyed that, but I know the industry, and that's part of the reasons why I've actually jumped back into learning a bit more with Maya and a little bit of Houdini, because I know the industry mostly focuses on a Maya and Houdini for effects like workflow, very procedural workflow. Blender, of course, isn't used.
Not often.
I do.
It
well,
is
not
used.
often, yeah, for that.
Yeah, not as often as the other ones, yes.
But I do get to do some with the educational stuff that I do for work. I can't really show anything yet. I did do one fairly recent on my portfolio. It wasn't really a medical animation focused episode. It was just about the brain and a little bit about the nervous system. I got to make a few animations for that. But I have thought about it. I know it's a lucrative area too because it's niche as well. So I've been thinking more about it recently, at least for professional work. In terms of personal work, I still love, playing around in Unreal Engine, learning more about environment art and stuff like that.
Everybody that we talk to who's in the medical field, for the most part, not all of them, but you know, a lot of them have that same kind of a journey where they actually have that medical background. It's such a huge thing. Like, if you're gonna go even do freelance for companies, if they know that that's where you come from, like, it makes like a huge difference.
Yeah.
You know, like, I think that you would probably, you know, have some great credibility going into something like that, you know, and have you thought about trying out Cinema 4D a little bit, or you know?
I no, it's funny you mentioned. I definitely have. I have visited the School of Motion website like at least 6 times in the past week. I signed up for like the newsletter and everything, and I've been seriously considering looking at more into learning about Cinema 4D. Yeah, I'd seen his course, and I know they have the new self-driven one, the lights, camera, render one that they recently put up.
Yeah.
That is David.
That's advanced one, though.
Yeah, that one's David Ariev. You will need to know a fair amount of Cinema 4D before you jump into that.
Okay, yeah. I've only ever used Octane a couple times, and it was just for personal stuff, and that's the Blender version, which they haven't even updated really. Yeah. But I mostly want to learn a lot about learn more about Redshift and the Cinema 4D workflow, especially since I started this past year. I started with a Houdini license just to get a feel for it, and they had the indie one, which was inexpensive, which I love how they make accessible, even for commercial work, which I thought was great. Not that I have any use for it yet, but in terms of quality. But yeah, so I've been going through a lot of experiments, just kind of training my mind to think procedurally. Math was never my 100%.
Sure.
I can, dose the hell out of a medication, but I can't really. What's 4 + 5? No, but so I'm trying to.
You think in CCs, right? Cubic centimeters, right?
But yeah, so I would so I looked into that and rendering. I've tried rendering a couple things in like Karma, for instance, and stuff, and I didn't really like. I don't know if this is like a broadly accepted thing, but I don't really like rendering in Houdini. I find it, at least as of now, as a very novice user. So I wanted to try out a third-party rendering engine, which would be I guess Redshift in combination. A lot of the tutorials and education and the courses that I see for Houdini deal with Redshift. Every time I go, it's always Redshift. I'm like, maybe I should learn Redshift.
I enjoy Redshift a lot. I've recently jumped into Arnold, to try that out. And I got to tell you, I am very surprised at the speed of the CPU. The CPU just by itself, if you're just, turning your camera around and just doing stuff, it's surprisingly fast. Even jumping into the GPU is still fast too. I was really impressed with how fast the CPU was able to work. Dave, did you see that comment?
Yeah, that the sound's off again. I don't get it. I don't get it, man. I don't know what to do. We'll just have to kind of keep going. I don't know.
Well, for those listening, sorry that it sounds like we're in a can.
We're trying. I have absolutely no explanation why that's happening.
Yeah.
That's really weird. That's so weird. I can try one thing real quick, but I don't want to
Let's try one thing. I'll grab a soda real quick.
I'll try the one thing. Yeah, I don't know. I was gonna try muting this. Let's see what happens here.
Let's try one thing. I'll grab a soda. I'll try the one thing.
All right, say something real quick.
Hello.
All right, let's see what happens.
All right,
say something real quick. Hello. All right, let's see what happens. All right, I think that might have fixed it. I don't know why.
Test. 1 2 1 2.
That might have fixed it.
Test. 1 2 1 2.
Yeah, I think that temporarily fixed it. I still don't understand what's going on. I'll have to figure that out after the show.
Sounds good.
But God, that's so weird. It gradually happened, huh? So
Lawrence,
can
I ask you this question about Blender real quick? Because I keep on hearing, I hear geometry nodes all the time. Yeah. Geometry nodes, and I don't know what they are. Are they similar? I'm assuming they're similar to what Maxon is building with capsules, where it's more of a node-based modeling system. Is that correct?
It's very, very similar. From what I've heard of in the past week, I've heard that term capsule used a lot more often, especially after that river thing was posted.
Mm-hmm.
I saw it in the past few days. Yeah, it's a node-based procedural modeling and animation system. I guess it's most comparable, at least from what I understand, because I haven't used any capsule or anything, would be Houdini.
Yeah.
It's obviously not near the level of that, but it acts very similarly to that. So yeah, you can create a lot of procedural animations and even kind of fake simulations using it. It's, I guess, in Cinema 4D as of now, in terms of what I'm seeing, people use geometry nodes for. To compare would be, I guess, Cinema 4D's Mograph tools.
Yeah.
Like a lot of things where like you get those effects and everything. A lot of people are building those, and I have a couple on my Blender build as well, like plugins that I downloaded, which allow you to just kind of drag and drop the effect, so to speak, kind of thing. So they create modifiers with geometry nodes. So there's a lot of what's it called? Potential for it. And one of the people I would 100% recommend looking through, and I've been trying to look through more, is Arendelle. He's one of the best I've ever seen use geometry nodes. There's also his username is BBBN19. Some of the most impressive things, I remember he made one. You'll probably see it if you go to YouTube, or they're both on Twitter. He made one where it was a nano. You remember from Iron Man? From the Avengers, when Iron Man put on the nanotech suit and just kind of like surrounded his body and just kind of like formed over him. He created that effect with an Iron Man type suit using geometry nodes. And it looked incredible, sort of like a procedural disintegration kind of system.
Interesting.
And I remember that was really early on in geometry nodes development. But yeah, I haven't used it often. I haven't had any real world cases where I'm using it, because proceduralism doesn't really fall too much into what I'm doing professionally. At least.
I'm looking at it right now, and it's looking like it's basically looking like a Fields type thing. You know?
Yeah, exactly.
Where they're using something similar to like Fields, but in a That's interesting.
Speaking of which, all these little teases that we're getting right now from Maxon are pretty cool.
Can you bring up that
the fire donut, the space butthole?
The space butthole.
That's what it looked like. Remember from
it's a vacuum. Space is a vacuum.
Yeah.
From VFX and Chill. Remember the?
Oh, that's right.
Yeah,
okay.
and this is from because they were actually. I'm pretty sure that's what they were commenting on here.
McGavran tweeted out, the amazing VFX training team wanted to post this, but I said no leaking. P.S. They had much funnier post ready. Anyway.
This is why. Here's a.
Yeah, so if you look at it, there's a pyro thing.
Right.
And then a Taurus with a pyro tag on it.
Right.
It's like, that's pretty exciting right there.
Yeah.
So, I mean, and, EJ brought up something interesting the other day right after McGavran posted this. It's like, what you have to keep in mind is that all the new cloth stuff, it's all particle-based now. It's not poly-based like it previously was, because it's particle-based. They're building this whole particle system. So why wouldn't they build in a pyro? Exactly.
Yeah. And
they
imagine
don't need
you
to buy
have
a new company. They've already built it.
But you got that, and you got like the particle-based stuff, but then you combine that with fields. Just imagine like the crazy, like cool-looking dailies and everything everybody's gonna be doing with pyro and fire, and
the stuff that EJ was also showing off with field forces. Like I feel like that's something I've been sleeping on, is field forces. Like being able to visually represent the how your motion is moving and stuff like that is really cool.
Yeah. So we'll see. I love that they are teasing stuff. I love that they're. I mean, it's kind of like Otoy does, when Jules comes on and talks about all the things that are coming. You don't know when it's going to happen, but it's still fun to look at, and this kind of feels the same way. It's like when they tease the stuff, it gets you excited about what's coming down the line, and you'll have to take EJ's intro course,
and
the
Ascent, or no, that's the second one. Is it?
Boot camp and then Ascent,
Boot camp.
right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And then Ariev. Ariev's is great too. You know, I learned a lot about lighting.
Oh, okay. So remember the animation that he teased the other day, where it was like the house catching on fire and stuff?
Yes.
You know, he did a follow-up tweet to that and said, "Here's the viewport version of that hot render. # no plugins."
Oh, he did.
Yeah.
# no plugins.
What?
This is
#
viewport,
no
huh?
plugins.
This is viewport?
I guess. I
Is
don't
it a
know.
viewport?
Is this Ember Gen? Like what?
Right?
It looks like it.
That's incredible.
Interesting. # no plugins.
Because just imagine right there, that's a field that you're just animating, right? And you're just telling it to catch everything on fire. Yeah. This is why it's great that we're not on the beta program, because we can speculate all we want.
Right.
All right?
So much more intuitive just to have that visual representation. That's
in
just
the viewport.
Right?
Oh.
Now,
In the viewport. That's crazy.
it says the viewport version. Now, the question is that real-time viewport or is that a rendered viewport? I'm assuming it's the viewport.
Right.
You know.
What
yeah.
me and EJ were joking the other day. We said cloth sims on fire are gonna be the new hot thing.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Just updated.
That render is... Oh, yeah, we got a tweet for... when he posted this, Rick tweeted at us and said that render is literally fire. So...
How does that
That's
even
crazy
work?
stuff.
Oh,
I mean,
I have no idea.
it's one thing to be the artist, which is incredible. Like, how do you use those? But who is making these things? I mean, what kind of mind creates these things? Like, it's just, wow.
I think about that a lot. Like, you know, we have, Jules on a lot, and, you know, I think about him and his team, and, you know, it's hard enough to learn how to use 3D tools, but to design the tools that allow you to do the 3D, I can't even imagine.
That's
know,
mind-blowing.
Like what kind of things you need to know, not just about programming, but about physics and everything else that goes into it. Like,
a
lot nerdier than me, I'll tell you that.
Right.
I've heard a lot about especially in the game industry. I've been seeing this a lot more often. You want to break into the game industry, get a job that pays really well, become a tech artist.
Yeah.
You know, there's so few people that not necessarily want to do it, but can or can't do it well, from what I've heard. And yeah,
man,
that's cool stuff.
So what TikToks do you have planned for us coming up? What's the next thing?
I had thought about doing a short series of how to and what they are, like baking textures. So baking like mesh maps. So like how to bake mesh maps in my usual process is I bake them in Marmoset and then I do my texturing in Substance Painter. Just because I'm not sure if you've used Marmoset tool bag, but it has a remarkable baker. I mean, I'm talking tools where you essentially have when you bake maps with a cage. So if you were to use a cage to bake your normals onto a low poly mesh, Marmoset has a way where you can intuitively kind of paint on the mesh that you're using. Like you can bake, like if you're baking and you get a lot of artifacts like from the high poly, it's like, oh, there's like a weird little etching here. It looks weird. In Marmoset, you can actually paint that out with the mouse or a tablet or whatever you're using. Like the baking system is mind-blowing. They also have a perpetual license, and I think it's like $15 a month. I recently started using Marmoset for my baking, and I stick to Substance Painter for my texturing, just because it's the thing I'm most familiar with. But I wanted to do a quick little video series, like minute or two long videos on how to bake your textures in Blender, how to bake your textures in Substance, and how to bake your textures in Marmoset. Like just like a quick thing, like load in your model, bring in your high poly, press bake kind of thing. Like just show what the settings mean kind of thing. Something simple. Like I don't want to get like advanced because I'm still a novice in this myself. So I want to kind of just share what what I feel is most, I guess, helpful. Because a lot of people I see, especially on TikTok, especially a lot of Blender users, I see a lot of them, making their animations and everything like that. And something I wish I knew earlier was how to optimize my scenes, because render times were horrendous and video cards are expensive and all this other stuff. I'm like, if I just optimized my scenes earlier on, it would have been so much easier to output work. And I would have had more marketable skills. So I feel like that's a big one.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Yeah, we've opened some scenes before that are pretty hairy. It's like, oh, there's 2 trees in this scene that are 58 million polys each. Yeah,
Right.
probably not a good idea. Just saying. Yeah.
Or there's
nothing for Unreal
800 instances of them, and they didn't set them as render instances, so it's
Right.
actually calculating every single poly.
Right.
Oh
Yeah.
Nothing for Unreal Engine though.
Right.
That's the new thing, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now, did I hear? I think that there are some modeling tools coming to Unreal. I think I caught wind of that on TikTok
Are there?
or something. Yeah. Yeah.
I've heard.
I don't know anything more than that yet because I really, you see it on TikTok. You're like, okay, I know something's happening, but this is as far as you go in investigating until you get back to your computer or a search
Modeling
engine.
mode with Unreal Engine 5.
I know they have some tools already, like basic like sculpting, and since they got rid of tessellation in Unreal Engine 5, you can now do like I guess actual geometrical displacement apparently, and they have tools for that as well. I forgot who it was who released a tutorial on that recently, but I've been watching a lot of Winbush tutorials for Unreal Engine, like the cinematic stuff. His stuff is super helpful.
Yeah.
Eventually, when I get an iPad, I want to play around with the MetaHuman live link too, and I know he's got a bunch of videos on that.
Yeah, I've played with that. It's fun, and I wanna do a version of myself now as well. See if I can. And Jags tried to do that, and well, he did. He not try. He did do it.
He did. It didn't look too much like him. I mean,
It was close.
It was close. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's hard.
I did mine, but yeah.
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 It's interesting. So I'm looking at the Unreal Engine 5 beginner modeling, like the modeling stuff. I mean, it's not too bad. The thing is, though, I don't know why. Like, I wonder if there's an advantage to modeling in Unreal versus bringing it in, as like an OBJ or a Limbic file or something like that. Like, what the advantage to that would be.
I mean, staying in the
agree.
program.
I agree.
Yeah, but are models created in Unreal faster, more efficient, or
I don't see
are they
how.
doing it just to have it in there,
From what I've seen, and I know Quixel released this, I want to say 2 months ago or so, the Megascans, they released the 90 days video. It was one of the most beautiful works of art I've ever seen. It was basically, they had 90 days artists to create, I think it was 60 pieces of work using only Unreal Engine and Megascans. And I remember they did a breakdown video of it as well, and incredible works of art, and they uploaded them all to ArtStation. And
I think this is it, Dave. I just put it
that
in
one?
the chat. I think that's it.
Let me see.
It says 90 days in Unreal Engine 5.
Yep, that's it.
Okay, cool.
Yep,
cool.
it was. Oh my gosh, it was amazing.
That's beautiful, yeah.
I've watched it so many times, it's not even funny. I'm just like, wow, maybe one day. But so yeah, I checked into the ArtStation posts, and some of them used the modeling tools in Unreal Engine, and I think it was mostly just for they have I think procedural destruction tools for buildings, and there was one of the animations in here which was like a building falling apart, something like that, so you can kind of model a little bit to kind of adjust things to your scene. But I guess it's a very just basic version of modeling, just like if you bring something in and you're like, I kind of wish this was a little bit more, but I don't want to export and re-import it type of fixes.
Well, the thing is, a lot of these people who are just getting into Unreal, because Unreal is free to download and start messing with, it's their first experience doing any of this. They're not necessarily C4D, Blender people, After anything, and so it's like, oh, hey, I want to make my own thing, and it's like, oh, well, now you have to learn Blender or Cinema 4D before you can model this. So I can see, if you had just gotten into Unreal, you would be like, well, how can I model and not have to learn another program?
I can see that.
That's a really good point. Yeah, I didn't think of that. Yeah.
Because their
some
user
of the
base,
stuff in this is absolutely gorgeous. You're right.
It blew my mind. 90 days.
Yeah.
Man.
Oh, I love it. It's incredible.
That one that we just saw, the snowing one with the river, that looked so photoreal. Holy cow.
This one was one of my favorites. This one here. Yeah.
It looks like a David Aria thing right there.
Did you see the one earlier where they were going through the space port and turning just like David Aria?
Yeah.
Oh,
it's funny.
No, they look incredible. I made some work in Unreal Engine, and it is one of the most fun. It's some of the most fun I've had in a 3D program. Yeah. Not necessarily like just easier. It's because I've definitely learned very quickly. I was very humbled extremely quickly at how difficult it gets, especially when you get more into like the heavy environment art and optimization stuff, which I know very little about. But it is some of the most fun I've ever had in a program. Just being able to see things in real time at this level of fidelity it's so exciting.
Right.
And you can bring VDBs in now from EmberGen and just play them right in the viewport, and I love it. Yeah.
Yeah, that's something that Jags kind of went through in his journey of like recreating the Halo trailer. Is like you start adding that environmental stuff, and it's all of a sudden it's just like, oh, this is no longer real time. Sorry,
Yeah.
So, that's my biggest thing. I've tried to jump into Unreal and just mess around a few times with some things, and I'm like, there's just so much extra stuff to learn. It doesn't feel very intuitive to use Unreal still, and that's why I'm like, okay, modeling tools, I don't know. Like, it still feels like it is a game engine with these tools on top of it. It's not built for this, and I'm sure they're making strides to kind of get it to where people like us, or maybe people younger than us who are just starting are going to be like, okay, this is going to be my starting point, It's the same reason that I don't hop into Blender. It's the same reason I don't hop into Unreal right now on the reg. It's just like I kind of have my flow, and I've got my clients, and I've got the type of work I do, and until it's like a necessity, then
I'm like someone like me, and there are many like me in terms of my position. I think that's kind of a privilege we have, like you just mentioned. I haven't fallen. I have a workflow. I have a way I do things, and of course, but I'm not fully attached to anything yet, to the point where I can still kind of, like you said, like jump into something and kind of, develop a workflow in there, or kind of learn a couple things like that, which is why I've been doing a lot more experimentation. This year has been kind of a year of experimentation for me. So when I do get time to do personal work, it's mostly not even finished stuff. It's just experiments. Like, let me jump into here. Oh, I do this tutorial in Maya or something, like how to rig this very basic thing, or how to do this in Houdini, like learn how to do how vellum works and do those little I think it was everyone does his tutorial, like the soft body like bubbles that blow up inside of an object, like the sneaker thing.
You know
what I mean?
One,
yeah, that thing, and like stuff like that. And Unreal, I had used Unreal Engine 4 a while back, like a couple times, just because it was free and I downloaded it. It was so unintuitive, at least for me, in terms of like the UI and everything else. And then when they announced 5 and I played that used that initial like beta or preview, they changed a lot of the UI. And at least coming from 4, my little experience in there, that was a huge improvement. It's a lot more comfortable to get used to now. But it's still a bit confusing. Like blueprints and all that stuff still confuses me. But
I like blueprints. I don't quite understand how to use it, but it is very much. I mean, it's a node system, so it's very much like using Espresso in Cinema 4D, and I like that aspect. Chris says in the chat, I wonder if they fixed where it crashes literally every 2 seconds. We've been hanging out on the Discord, and I do know that that's been the case with some of his stuff. He's just crashing all the time, and
I've had that, and apparently I found out it was my VRAM like utilization limit or something else. I forgot it was. I had a conversation on Twitter. I think it was with like a very short one with I think Stuzor, or I mentioned this to like it was in a thread with I think like William Foucher was his name. I believe he does all the Unreal stuff. I've been watching him a lot. I have a 3090. I upgraded this past year. When you were actually able to get them through pre-built, and apparently the 3000 series cards are experiencing a lot of crashes in Unreal. It was like I was getting like an error message. Everyone seemed to be getting the same error message, and I found out actually had to go into like your computer graphics settings, like a text file, and you had to actually like change the limit that your computer like kind of like cut out. So like I didn't really understand it well. I'm not a computer scientist, but it was apparently there's a timeout period. So let's say 5 seconds and it'll time out and crash. So you had to apparently increase that time period. That was one of the fixes for people. Like I said, I'm not super, understanding. I don't understand this super well, but that worked for me. And now I get very few to any crashes at all, because I was like, I did not just get a 3090 to crash in Unreal.
Right.
And I'm hearing things about the 4090 just being pretty freaking ridiculous in Unreal. I saw some examples of that, I think, on TikTok this weekend. So,
Oof.
I don't remember what it was exactly they were showing off. Like I think it was some sort of demo where you could just like crank it and just see what happens. It was like a forest scene or something. Someone was going through and just kept cranking and cranking, and so the 4090s are just killing it there, which is understandable, But yeah. So, just an update. I should have talked about this at the beginning, but just an update. My VR headset will be here tomorrow, the Quest Pro. I'm very excited about that. It got delayed today because they flagged my Amex account for fraud, and so they didn't charge me, and therefore they didn't put it in the queue to ship. So I had to fix that. So it's showing up late, but I'm very excited about that. I'll be reporting back on that.
It's gonna be
shortly.
fun.
Yeah,
that sounds like fun.
Yeah.
Is the quality like better than the previous version, than the Quest 2?
Yes, the pixel density and all that is. And
what's the difference?
And the field of view as well, and then the cameras on it. Also, there are the same types of sensor cameras on the controllers. So it's not now just about the controller seeing the headset. Have you ever played Beat Saber and you throw a note and you're like, I know I hit that, I didn't miss that note. I know I didn't miss that, I hit that, but it said I missed it. I don't know if you've ever experienced that.
Not often.
A lot of times it has to do with when your hand goes like way up, kind of like to the side of your head, because the controllers are talking to the headset to get their location. Well, now they are also looking and seeing the room as well, and the other things. They have like more advanced like cameras in the controllers. The only thing that I don't like, and I've ordered the little charging station for this, which I don't think is out until December, if I remember that correctly. But the controllers, you cannot put batteries in anymore. They have to charge.
Oh, really?
And that's the sucky thing, because you're playing and then all of a sudden you run out of battery and you have to put them on the charger. Now I'm sure that the charge time is pretty decent, but I understand why they did it. They redesigned the controllers, and then what happens, like they're like, well, we could design this better if you didn't have to have a AA battery right here. You could make a weird shaped battery that fits better and fits the balance of the controller better. But it does kind of suck if you're in the middle of playing and you have to recharge.
So the Quest 2 is 1832 by 1920, and the Quest Pro is 1800 by 1920.
It's not right. You actually what now? It's a little denser.
It's not. Well. No, it's actually less dense.
Well, I think that there's a difference,
a higher
though.
Field of view. You
get a higher field of view.
106 degrees versus 90 degrees.
But remember, you have the resolution, but then you have the pixel density.
Yeah.
So I think you see less of the dots, the pixels. I think that's what they were talking about. I think that's the difference. And then you have, of course, the color cameras on the outside.
Yeah, that's cool.
The color pass through.
But is it worth the extra $1,200?
I'll let you know.
Really?
I'll let you know.
Yeah, I mean, because the Quest 2 is $300, the Quest Pro's $1,500.
Yeah, it's $1,500.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's a big price jump. Yeah.
That is a huge price jump. Yeah.
Well, that's because this isn't the next version of the Meta Quest. It's not the Quest 3. This is like a more pro version. There's a lot.
I'll wait
more tech
until
in it.
the Quest Pro goes down to like $400, like it did when we bought the Quest 2 or whatever.
No, I don't think it will. Honestly, I think it's going to be like the iPhone. That one's always the expensive one, and then that's the pro version, and then the prosumer or consumer version is going to be the cheaper. I mean, because money.
Right. Because Facebook. Because the metaverse.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Let's do a little thing called Mograph Recommends. We're going to ask you some of your favorite things and, kind of get an idea of where some of your influences might come from, Yeah. We're just going to go down this list, and any of your answers can either be a recent favorite or an all-time favorite. It doesn't matter. And the first one we're going to do is your favorite movie.
Ooh, oh man, this is a tough one. There's so many. Let's see. I'd have to say, this is kind of an obscure one, and it's favored for different reasons. Constantine.
Okay.
With
All right.
Keanu Reeves.
All right.
Yeah,
I thought it was extremely underrated, and especially in terms of visual effects for its time, was one of the coolest movies I've ever seen.
Yeah.
And one of my favorites with Keanu Reeves, aside from, of course, The Matrix. But that's definitely, I've seen that movie so many times.
I think they're making a second one, aren't they?
Yeah, they announced it, and I was over the roof with it. Yeah, no, I'd have to say Constantine. It's a huge list, but if I were to pick one, I'd say Constantine, just because I've seen it so many times.
Constantine. The next one is, well, along those lines, TV show.
Oh.
Any good recent series or?
Recent, I'll take a recent one. Arcane, hands down, no competition.
I don't know about that.
Right. That's Netflix, right?
Yeah,
Animated?
Riot Games. Yeah. Probably the most. Yeah.
What is? I've heard such good things about this show.
I cannot recommend it enough. I've already seen it 3 times. It's 9 episodes.
Wow.
It's 9 episodes long. Probably the most impressive animation I've ever seen. The most unique, like the soundtrack, the story's fantastic. And I've never played a minute of League of Legends. And apparently,
I was gonna say I think it was League of Legends based or whatever. But yeah. That's rad.
It's incredible. Definitely love it.
All right. Who did
check it
that
out.
one? Who was the production company for that?
Or Fortiche Studios. It's a French studio, but I know it's like Riot Games, like their overall publishing. So, yeah.
Huh. Okay. Cool.
Yeah.
Did you see that there's a blockbuster show coming to Netflix? How ironic.
Yeah, with was it Randall? What's his name? Randall Park, I think. I think he's gonna be in it too.
Yeah, something like that.
I know it's the woman from Brooklyn Nine-Nine.
Brooklyn Nine-Nine. Yeah.
And I don't know the guy's name, but he's Asian Jim on The Office.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, Randall Park. Yeah.
Okay. God, that's every time I see him, that's all I can think of is that episode of The Office.
I remember Blockbuster, man. That was the best.
Yeah,
I miss it.
All the feels, the nostalgia when you go on TikTok, and there's always those nostalgia TikToks, and they play like super sad chill hop music under it, and
I love it. I feel so old, but I love it.
I know. There's one particular sound that's going around right now. It's supposed to be like the most depressing sound. It's only like 10 seconds long, but you loop it, and it's so sad that people end up playing it for hours. And there's even memes like, after you listen to this song the first time, and you're like, yeah, and then 2 hours later, you're like sobbing because
just deep sadness.
Something about these like old, like I don't know, these old these particular sounds that are kind of like that old school chill hop sound that like gets you in the feels for some reason. I don't know why.
I don't know. It's the retro wave, the synth wave kind of thing.
Synth wave and yeah. And speaking of which, the next one on the list is your favorite music. What do you listen to?
I listen to a lot of hip hop, R&B, a lot of like electronic music. So like a mix of electronic music, not necessarily like EDM house, but I like house music.
Yeah.
A lot. Anything with a good beat. But I'd have to say my favorite genre is classical. And classical branched off to like soundtrack music. It's actually it was my first introduction to the arts, like real when I not introduction, but when I found I really loved the arts was I used to play a lot of RPGs growing up. Final Fantasy and Kingdom Hearts was my entire childhood. And I recently started playing Final Fantasy VII Remake, which is amazing.
So good
on PC. I love it so much.
Yeah.
But yeah, and when I started listening to those soundtracks like the Kingdom Hearts and like Final Fantasy, I'm like, what is this? And why is it amazing? And I remember for my 18th birthday, my best friend had actually gotten us tickets to go see video games live at the Beacon Theater in Manhattan.
Nice.
And we saw like all of our favorite, like the New York Philharmonic, like played like these songs from like Final Fantasy X and Kingdom Hearts, and I fell in love with that genre of music overall. And
that was the point. That's how they get you hooked.
Yes, that's how it is. And I loved it. And like soundtracks and movie soundtracks, whether it's like Hans Zimmer and something like Inception or like Howard Shore for the Lord of the Rings, and everything just in general, I was just constantly listening to like that kind of music, and that influenced a lot of my interests and eventually influenced like artwork and stuff like that. And like when I work, even if I'm not doing anything epic at all, like it's the most basic text animation you've ever seen in your life, I'm gonna be having some like the most epic music you've ever heard. like someone's like saving the kingdom or whatever, and I'm just kind of sitting completely like stale faced, animating some text. But it's cool and it's inspiring, and it would be that first. But I grew up on a lot of hip hop and R&B. You know, my dad had the vinyl records. I'm from New York, and my dad was really into music. My mom's brothers, she has 7 of them. All of them play the guitar.
Nice.
They were all grew up to music and things like that. So it was something that I've always been around. But just that instrumental sound is what I love the most. Yeah.
That's cool.
Well, and also speaking of which, the other one on here is favorite video game. So.
There you go. Yeah. It would Kingdom Hearts 1. Final Fantasy X, kind of stuck between 2, but I'd say Kingdom Hearts 1. Yeah.
You ever play Halo?
Oh yeah. I would play Halo with friends all the time. I remember. Well, I didn't have an Xbox, but my friend who lived down the street had one, and we'd play Halo, the original Halo, like just all the time. And that was back in the days of split screen, and I miss that.
Yes.
But
because you could look at the other person's screen and figure out where they were. I mean, that was my favorite part. You know. But we have a huge Halo group that you should join us sometime. You know. Oh yeah. Play that. There's that free version for the PC. So.
Yeah. Seen any of the previews of the new Pokemon game? Looks amazing.
I have not. I saw the recent one that came out, but I didn't even see it.
Yeah, it's cool. I think they're gonna stick with the same catch mechanism that they did with Arceus, which I absolutely loved. You just throw a Pokeball and hopefully you make it. It's cool. It's very cool. Yeah. Instead of having to fight every single one, you just throw a Pokeball. So.
There you go. I need to play something on my Switch. It's been sitting there collecting dust. So
right.
Oh,
man. The Switch in my house gets the most play. We have 3 Switches in my house.
Oh, yes.
And they get the most play. Well, 4 if you count the one that got thrown into the pool by my youngest child.
Oh my gosh.
Naturally.
Mine has been gathering dust, but I'm gonna break it out. My daughter's really interested in seeing what we can do with the Flipper Zero, because this is like the hacking device that's all over TikTok.
Yeah,
where everybody shows it
it does NFC stuff.
NFC
and
that's so cool. What?
Arduino hookups on it and infrared, and you can hack car keys and garage door openers, but you can do the little, what is it called? Amio. What are the little
amiibos?
Amiibos. You can emulate any amiibo with this.
Yeah, I mean, you can buy like little NFC chips or whatever like that, and then I think you can actually use your phone to put them on as well.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's cool.
Yeah,
that's
you
cool.
just go through the little list on here, and it's also set up like a what do you call it? Like what were the pets?
Neopets?
Tamagotchi. Yeah.
I remember those.
Yeah, it also kind of like doubles as a Tamagotchi. I don't know if you can see, but it's too bright. It's too bright.
Yeah.
But there's a little dolphin.
Yeah.
on here, and he's just like he's lounging around on the couch and doing stuff, and like it tells you
as dolphins do.
Yeah, his mood and everything. He'll come back. Sometimes you come back and he's annoyed because you haven't been there in a while, and so they like gamify this thing. I still have yet to figure out how to use this stupid thing. I gotta tell you that.
You got to figure out how you can take it to like, Dave and Buster's and play unlimited games for free.
Yeah.
Give it a year and it'll be rendering Blender animations.
Right.
Someone's gonna be rendering simulations on that. It's like I fit my 3090 into a.
I did find out that on this is on TikTok that you can do Dave and Buster's hacking. Did you see that? Yeah.
I did. Yeah.
That'll be a fun one. See, it says
Busters and play unlimited games.
Turn device off, and the dolphin's crying. I will be waiting for you here.
Okay, see you.
Okay, see you. All right, what else do we have on this list? Podcasts. Do you listen to podcasts?
Yeah. Well, none officially. I listen to more video essays than anything.
Mm-hmm.
This is the first podcast in a long time that I've started listening to. More often, catching up with the older episodes, because usually Mondays are my busiest days, so I usually don't catch up on the day.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm enjoying this one.
Awesome.
I listen to a lot of video essays. Yeah, of course, it's fun. On movies and TV shows and those kind of the history of video games. I watched one recently. It was an hour and a half long on the entire history of Assassin's Creed. So I listened to a lot of those, and it's been making me want to get into audiobooks as well. So not necessarily podcasts, but a lot of audio content.
Right.
I listen to. I'm trying to get more into podcasts though.
And what is your?
My partner does.
What's that?
My partner does. She's all in podcasts.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And what is your go-to app? What is your muscle memory app? You just can't get off.
TikTok. No.
Yeah. I mean.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is.
But aside from that, YouTube. I have YouTube Premium as well, so no commercials, and I have YouTube Music. I absolutely love it.
I need to do that.
They've got the family plan, but they just jacked up the price to $23 a month. But
gosh, you don't have no commercials on YouTube.
Yeah, but you get YouTube Music for free. Which is kind of cool.
Music is, I love it.
I don't use it. I just use Spotify.
Yeah.
I used to, and then I had so much problems. I have an Android phone, at least for now.
Oh.
And I used to have so many problems with the app. I was like, let me try out Google Play, and this was back then.
Mm-hmm.
Google Play was terrible, Google Music.
Yeah.
So I'm glad they rebranded it as YouTube Music, and it's a lot better now. But my favorite feature, aside from no commercials, is if you know those songs, sometimes you listen to obscure music and you can't find the song for it, but there's a video or music video, you can save those to your playlist as regular songs on YouTube Music and play it. And I love that.
I think that's actually what they do with their music, is just the stuff is uploaded and then they just use that as their music.
Probably. Yeah. But
all right.
No, definitely that.
But it's good for your kids, so that your kids don't have to see all these crappy commercials and stuff. It annoys me when I get logged out on the TV and my kid's watching YouTube, and I'm like, why are you watching commercials? You shouldn't be watching commercials.
I'm paying $23 a month for this.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
No child of mine is going to be sitting here watching.
Right.
Yeah. and the worst is with the kid advertisements too. There are those ads that you can skip, but if you don't skip them, they start playing a 30-minute children's show.
Yes.
And it's you put on what's her name, Miss Rachel, and then all of a sudden something else is playing, and it's wait a minute, when did I turn this on? And you're like, oh, it's a 30-minute ad.
Ridiculous.
I get why
an ad's an episode,
yeah.
Right?
All right, here's the hard one. Okay.
Man.
Now this one can be something funny or something actual practical, and it's your favorite life hack. And the example we use is Mitch Myers says, turn the toaster on its side for some bomb-ass grilled cheese. So you have a hacky thing like that?
Oh man, that's a tough one.
Any hack living in New York?
Yeah.
Back when most of my life hacks are like survival tips. Like,
that's all right.
If you're bleeding out, what do you do? No, but no.
There you go.
Could be a good one.
Yeah.
I don't know what to do.
No, I would just hold pressure and hope for the best.
All right.
That's my official former medically licensed opinion. Let's see. Best life hack. Oh, you know what? I was actually just mentioning something the other day.
I always think of them and then I forget, you know, like the gas station one.
What's that one?
My gas station one is when you're pumping gas at the gas station. That's the time, you know, you're bored. You're waiting. It seems like an eternity sometimes. You get a slow pump. It's going, you know, like 0.1 gallon a second. And you're just sitting there like, come on. That's the time that you get out and you open all the doors and you grab all the trash and you just put it in that thing. I know it sounds super simple, but like that's when you do it, you know?
Oh, that's interesting.
Something like that, you know?
Yeah, that's a little one, yeah.
And it could be something funny too, you know? It doesn't matter.
All right, well, I guess this is one I could use in terms of... like this one's more of like a good tip everyone should know. That's not a life hack. So it has to do with medical insurance and medical bills.
All right.
And a lot of people know this, and I see it going around on social media, but I remember hearing this back when I worked in medicine for a while. If you get a medical bill and it's out of this world, because, you know, this is the U.S., if you get a medical bill that's out of this world, ask for an itemized list.
Yes, I have heard
costs.
that.
Yeah, ask for an itemized list of the costs. They do have to give it to you by law. They have to give you an itemized list, and what's it called? And when you get that list, sometimes they will actually take off a huge chunk, or sometimes they will, you know, and most hospitals have what's known as charity care, and they'll pay a portion of your bill or knock it off entirely, which just kind of goes to show you that it wasn't needed to be put on there in the first place.
Right.
So I guess that would be my life hack. It's more of a practical kind of.
Yeah, no, that's a good one though. I mean,
yeah.
You know, you might as well try. I did that at one point too. I asked for an audit, and they never really got back to me on it. So down the line, I ended up just wiping it off.
Yeah, we'll just write it off.
Yeah.
I don't think me personally, I hate getting surprise medical bills, and I get them all the time. All the time. You got 2 kids, you're always going to the doctor, you know. I get surprise bills all the time. I just don't pay them.
They're like, oh, well, we did the doctor separately on this. Oh, like, also, this blood work that we did was actually a bunch of extra money, and we didn't tell you before we did it.
This blood work we did 6 months ago. We're finally giving you a bill to. I just don't pay them. Like,
well, okay,
send me to collections. What? I already have a house. I have a car. You know, it's not like I have great credit. You know, you're not gonna screw up my credit. Bring it on.
Yeah. When you see how much certain things cost, like I remember, because, you know, I have like certain anaphylactic allergies, and like I would need like an EpiPen for certain things, and EpiPens are ridiculously expensive.
Yeah.
Hundreds of dollars, you know, $700 for some of them, whatever it is. But if you actually look at the same dosage and the actual vial or cost of, I don't remember exactly, so don't quote me, but I think it was like 10 cents or 20 cents per vial. That's insane.
You're just paying for the mechanism that shoots it in, right? Like
not even that, made of plastic. But yeah, no, yeah. So
you're paying for them to hold on to the patent, is what you're paying for, right?
Yeah.
Man.
That's how it is. But that was a tough one. It's tough.
Yeah. Well, we appreciate you being on the show, taking time to join 2 strangers to talk about motion, you know.
Yeah.
And
I loved it. Thank you for having me. Yeah.
If people want to find you online, where's the best place to get in touch with you, send you a message, look at your work?
Best place would be Twitter first, just because I communicate most often on there. I usually follow back most of the time. My only, like, not rule, but kind of thing I look for is, you regularly post art, or is it just memes? And sometimes if the memes are good, I'll follow back. But it's usually kind of one of those. But yeah, Twitter at Imaginary3D, or you can check out my work at lawrencepompey.com, and that's my portfolio, which I try to update as often as possible.
Just got another follower. You don't have to follow me back.
I will. I won't. But but yeah.
Cool.
So
I just send out links about how I want you to help me out with my NFT projects. That's all
yeah,
I
right.
do.
Yeah. Hey, could you do me a favor?
Get random messages. It's 3 in the morning.
Yeah. Want to build your NFT audience? Nope. Cool. Yeah. Well, we're going to get out of here, though. You can rate us on iTunes, leave a review on your podcatcher of choice, help get our ratings up. Subscribe to all the things, including the newsletter, which hasn't gone out in a while, but, maybe we'll do an update here soon. Oh, I do need to remind everybody, I should have said this at the top of the show, but as far as classes are concerned, we do have the new RTX On course by Brandon Clements, teach you how to optimize all of your scenes in Unreal, for that real-time flavor. And so
we got 1 week left also.
Oh, yeah, for the 50% off on creating Unreal.
50% off on creating the Unreal, yeah.
We will be having a late night special, which we have not done in a while. I'm trying to look up the date here. I believe it is November 3rd. So a week from this Thursday, it'll be the Unreal special. We're going to go through Brandon's course and talk about Unreal stuff. And Winbush will be joining us for that episode as well. So, cool. We'll geek out about that. I would like to get Andy Blondin on as well. I need to shoot him a message, see if he's available, because that would be fun. Yeah. So, and yeah, that's it. Just make sure you check out Mograph TV. Put it on, give it a little try, rip the knob off, just leave it on. Be your friend right there. And so you can say you've been there, done that, got the T-shirt with the Mograph logo tee, the Paul Babb Feel the Babb 2020 shirt. All the profits from that go to Doctors Without Borders. The Render Things T-shirt, hoodie, and long sleeve tee. It's that time of year. Get that hoodie.
That long sleeve.
Yeah, and the Mograph Blandishment shirt, and the That Render is Fire shirt, which you are only allowed to wear, ironically, unless you're shams.
Shams.
Yes. Yeah. And we're on YouTube, Mograph.com. Check us out on there, subscribe, and all the stuff. And, that about wraps it up. Until next time, I'm Dave.
And I'm Matt.
And I'm Lawrence.
Have a good one.
Later, yo.
Stand by.
I'll be right back.